Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm Andrea Young, Executive Director of the ACLU of Georgia. We are in opposition to this bill. We need to help our kids catch up after a year of school disrupted by the pandemic, not turn our schools into battlegrounds. Allowing parents to object to en masse to classroom content will contribute to a climate of classroom censorship. The review period burdens teachers. The bills employ vague language, and they're unnecessary because parents are already involved in setting educational standards and goals. I ask you to remember who our teachers are. They're our friends, our neighbors, our brothers, sisters, cousins. They're members of our congregations, and many are parents themselves. While 7 of 10 Georgia teachers are white, and most students are people of color, white, Black, Asian, or Hispanic, I don't know any teacher who believes that parents don't matter. Every teacher I've ever known, including my mother, has wanted the most engaged parents possible, because engaged parents mean engaged and better prepared kids. So let's not turn our schools into battlegrounds. Let's teach our children civility and mutual respect from the way we behave as teachers, parents, and policymakers. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I just want, you have number 4 was first. Who's?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here. Was it Miss Young? Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. My mother was a school teacher as well, so I know you were raised well. And my mother had the same connection in her mind between what she was able to do in the classroom and the involvement of the parents at home. With that in mind, this bill does 6 things. And I'm curious which of the 6 you object to specifically and why.
The concern about the vagueness of the language, the burden on teachers of, I've also been a teacher myself, having to come up with materials 30 days within, the classroom period, and then having random objections by any individual parent without standards of what those are. I mean, our schools are very diverse, and many parents have many, many views. And so how do you adjudicate, how do you respond to objections by parents when you already have a curriculum, you already have a process, you have a school board that's elected by the community, and you're going to now have this last minute sort of objection by an individual parent? It just is chaotic. It just would throw our schools into chaos.
What makes you assume that it will be last minute?
Well, you're saying within the 30 days, once people have started preparing their lesson plans. I mean, if your mother was a teacher, she was Sunday night preparing lessons. She was working, spending her own money, sometimes buying some of these materials that kids need, making sure she took some candy bars or nutrient bars for kids who didn't have a good meal that day or forgot their lunch. Our teachers, like I said, they're our relatives. They're our members of the community.
With respect, ma'am, the bill actually states,
what is your concern?
The bill actually states that the district will have 30 days to respond to a request. My mother taught 4th grade. If somebody asked her what 4th grade math she was teaching, she could absolutely come up with the answer to that in 30 days.
But we know that
same question around civics, same question around reading, right?
Right.
So I guess I would ask, do you believe, I have 4 children.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that I should be able to request from the school district that the school district provide for me information on the curriculum that's being taught to my children?
I think that what I've seen most of teachers do is that they're providing at the beginning of the year at the parent-teacher conference is your opportunity to talk about what the curriculum is going to do, and that would be provided. And so the question is, if something is already happening, what is the additional purpose of putting it into state law that makes it very difficult for local control, for school boards, or to make adjustments that work for their particular community?
I find the "it's already happening" argument interesting. It's similar one that we heard earlier. It's already happening, but we shouldn't do it, or it's already happening, but we shouldn't require it. It's a good thing, and it's great that it's already happening, but we shouldn't make sure that everybody does it. What's the
because when you do it, because as you see through this process, when you do it at the state level, you take away the ability of local officials to respond to community needs and be actually closer to the parents and what they want.
But I thought we've already heard in this hearing that it's currently being mandated by a state board of education order.
Well, I thought that it was also something that the local school boards were doing and also local communities.
I want to zoom out because, and I'm not trying to trap you. I really do genuinely want to understand, because I think I would probably vote opposite on this issue. But you do think I should be able to know what curriculum my children are being
Yes.
taught, correct?
Sure.
You just think that should happen one time at the beginning of the year, but not at any point in time throughout the year? Is that the main
I think it
objection?
should be a process that is, at the school board level, at the school level, where parental involvement typically takes place. And, if there are concerns with, a principal or whatever that's not being responsive to parents, I think that's, that becomes a responsibility of the superintendent. But I think that this idea of micromanaging schools from here, rather than even our state board of education or our school boards that are elected for that purpose, does not seem to me to be putting all parents first. But that there is some agenda of an aggrieved group of parents, perhaps. But in terms of the general political process that is inclusive of our communities, we vote for our school board members. They select the superintendent. We have a democratic process for how members of the community are involved in education, which is, of course, a large part of what our property tax dollars go for. And so that's
It is a
what
large part of our
should be.
property tax dollars, but it's also 39% of our state budget.
Mhm.
It's the largest expenditure that we have as an entire state is the money that we pay for K through 12 education, about $13 billion. And I think that it's reasonable. And I guess I hear you saying you think it's reasonable as well, but I don't necessarily hear a clear path to what would happen in this
One of the
instance.
things
That
when this body does,
if I could finish,
Yes, I'm sorry.
that what to do in the process, as you know, many elections are very close, right? And so this obviously, you mentioned something about all parents. I think the beauty of this is that all parents, regardless of your zip code, regardless of which 180 school systems you live in, whether you're in a county school district or a city school district, you have the same rights afforded to you under this parental bill of rights. And I would say that what you're actually arguing for is disproportionate rights applied based on whatever a superintendent thinks. And as a father, I object to that notion. I think that it's perfectly acceptable for those people here who were elected by people from all around the state to determine what our number one expenditure, 39% of our state budget, $13 billion, how that is going to be, how we're going to allow parents to engage in that process. And I'm a little bit dumbfounded, frankly, at I guess the insinuation that somehow this is targeting a certain group of parents. I'd like to know what group of parents you think that is.
Well, we heard from the earlier student that there are concerns, but I think the thing is not that
I'm sorry, but what are the concerns?
The issue is not that this doesn't allow, that this gives disproportionate parents. It's that it gives any parent. So one parent out of a classroom of 35 could then create a whole system where what the other 34 parents are fine with the classroom instruction, but one parent can trigger this whole process that then takes the teacher's time, it takes the school board's time, it takes the adjudicative body's time. When we have a process, we have PTSA meetings that happen every month. We have organizations of parents in our schools. We have school boards that are elected. We have superintendents that are chosen by the school boards and are kicked out when parents are not satisfied with their leadership. And these are people who are educational professionals, and who are part of, the whole specialization of being a teacher. And so I know that there are concerns that parents have. Not everybody likes everything that is going on every day, but we do have a community. We live in community, and the idea of a common school is this whole idea of of what the community standards are. We have processes for those, and it just seems to me that taking this and trying to restrict what schools can do and to respond to the needs of their communities. It just seems that it's overreach that it's vague and it's really unnecessary, given that there's so many different ways.
I just want to
that
clarify
parents
for
are
you,
involved.
there's nothing in this bill that restricts what a school can do relative to what they teach, what the curriculum is, et cetera.
I don't want to get into a debate. I'm going to go ahead and move on to Senator James.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me,
Oh,
ma'am.
you have a question? Okay.
Well, first of all, thank you. We're honored to have you, Attorney Young. And for my colleague who said that you had a good mother, he's correct, because I knew your mother. And Dr. Young actually has a school named after her in our community. And your father too, Ambassador Andrew Young. So, you know, she had good parents and who made decisions for us. So I do thank you for your comments. I agree with you 100%. And I do agree with the young man who came before you that talked about the paranoid parents. We have to ask ourselves that question. And when we do, then we can understand better. So thank you very much. I just wanted to make that comment, and to, especially after he said something about your parents. Yes, I know your parents, and I voted for your dad many, many times. So thank you for being here and sharing the information with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Did you have another?
Senator Jackson, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Young, thank you for taking time out to be here. Thank you for your service. The fact that your mother was a teacher says a lot about you. My mother and father were teachers. My mother taught 34 years. My dad taught 32. In fact, I taught 1 year in public school in 6th grade. I taught 6th grade math. So I understand the struggles. I understand that, you know, the need to get out of a lesson plan and how it can be disruptive if people want to change your lesson plan in midstream. I remember back those few years ago that as a young teacher, how you have to meet with the parents to tell them the agenda, what you expect from the kids, what you expect from the families. And the fact that a parent could come and say, oh, I don't like this lesson plan, change it in midstream, not only hurts the lesson plan, it hurts the children, because not that just one child, the whole thing starts all over again. But the fact that your mom taught for so many years in public school is commendable. I understand what you stand for, and ACLU, the organization, stands for what it means. What we should be talking about is fully funding public education, so that young people in public schools get the best opportunity. And so instead of trying to make it difficult for the teachers, because when you're a teacher, and I hope most of you understand, it's an honorable position, but it's not really well paid for. So you do it not for the pay, you do it for the love of the children. And we should be fully supportive of teachers and this system, and helping them create a lesson plan and giving them local control and helping them do their job. Because what we're doing is, because when we attack them, we take away from the kids from doing their job. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, that wasn't a question, but I just want to thank Ms. Young for being here and standing up for us.
Thank you. My
All
pleasure.
right. Thank you.